Today's video is a real talk about university. Because the school year is approaching, unfortunately, I wanted to make a video about things I wish I knew going into my first year. First, we're gonna put our contacts in. I'm getting ready to meet my friend later. So the first most common question I feel like is, how do you make friends in university, especially if you don't have like established friend groups already going in? I'm not crying, it's just my contacts. But I feel like it's easier to make friends in university than just high school because everyone is kind of on the same line. Does that make sense? Like everyone has a fresh start to make friends, so no one's like ahead of the curve basically. So you're going to have orientation events during your first year, obviously, and that is the time to really take advantage of it because it's so awkward to approach people later in like 2 weeks into the school year and then you're like, oh, I want to be friends, you know, that's like awkward. So just try and make a lot of different friends in your orientation groups or different orientation events, and don't try to just stick to the same group of people because that can limit you. So try to go out of your comfort zone, approach people, be nice to them, I don't know, get their Instagrams, or even ask to hang out outside of orientation times if that's possible, different things like that. Now the next question is there like friendship drama in university? Does that still exist even outside of high school? And the answer to that is definitely yes. A lot of people are still very immature in high school, and I feel like that doesn't mean just because you're in university, it doesn't mean that people are going to be a lot more mature. And yeah, there's definitely drama, and I feel like a lot of that actually stems from like roommate drama, just because it's everyone's first time probably living outside of like their parents' home, and so they're new to this. But a lot of people are just like really weird when it comes to the roommate situation, and it is hard to get along with someone when you're just with them 24/7. But I've heard of so many horror stories. Like for me, it wasn't a problem really, but for myself, I know a lot of friends who had weird ass roommates. And I think an important lesson that I learned in university is that everyone is connected, and that might be quite obvious, like, oh, everyone's connected, you're going to the same school, you might be in the same program, but don't like back talk about others because they will definitely hear it, because people aren't going to like just keep it to themselves even if they say do, you know what I mean? So don't do anything that you might regret doing, I guess. Just keep your image clean and safe, just because you don't know who's going to be listening to your stories and making assumptions about you, even if it's not something that's terribly wrong, if that makes sense. I recently dropped my blush, so it's like cracked and just very powdery and horrible. Next up, what is the hardest part about university? I would say the hardest part is the academics. I don't know. I go to U of T, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm in the business program at my school. It's like a separate business program called Rotman Commerce, and they are kind of known for being difficult, and I feel like academics was the hardest part of it. And also trying to balance that with other things too, like going to different networking events, because that is an important part of, I guess, attending a business school, and also trying to do YouTube at the same time, you know, having my business, all of that was quite difficult. But I think that's just something that you have to learn. And I think going to university taught me a lot about how to balance things and also prioritizing different tasks as well. So hopefully that's something that you'll get a hang of once you're in the grind. But honestly, I'm not excited for school to start because I just know it's going to be so intense. Okay, shading. Another question is living on campus like really important? So I would say this definitely depends on the university. Like some schools are called commuter schools, where a lot of the students are just like commuting from home, and it really doesn't matter whether you live on campus or not. But the university that I go to, I would say like maybe 60% of people in their first year at least live in dorms, and then 40% commute. So I would say that's like a pretty big chunk of people that live on dorms in their first year. And for me personally, I made so many friends by just living on campus, because our situation was where you had to go inside the dining hall and eat. You couldn't like take out food, and it wasn't like an apartment style dorm where it's just like a shared kitchen, for example. So everyone had to eat at the dining hall, and I think that really like forced people to be friends. And all of my friends are actually in the same program as me, so we all kind of like bonded, and I think I'll really miss that, because now that I'm living off campus in second year, I feel like that experience isn't going to be the same, and you aren't seeing the same people every single day. Next question was actually something that I got asked in my comment section. So they asked like, what are some dorm essentials? And it might be a little bit late by the time this video is released, but definitely a fan. I mean, my dorm actually was very like old style, so they didn't have any air conditioning, which I know it sounds horrible to some people, but for me personally, it was just fine. I know some of my friends said it was like really, really hot and they could not bear it without the AC, but for me it was fine. And I would say I'm like, I get moderately hot. Like, it's not like I don't get hot easily, but I had a fan with me. It was this one, like this kind of table fan, which isn't like a small one for sure, but it's not like a huge one that, you know, it's just on the floor. My roommate had that and I think that was fine. I think just bringing a fan, and if you can't bring one, just buying one if needed, I think is a good idea. Another one is flip-flops or like some kind of shower shoes. Sometimes I wore my flip-flops in the shower because it just gets gross. You don't want to be barefoot on the shower. That's just disgusting. But sometimes I also wear my Crocs. I think those two options are nice. Anything that's just like water I think is good. Definitely medicine as well, some kind of cold preventative medicine, like what do I have? Oh, I have this one, Cold FX, which actually might be nice to take right now because my friend is sick and she's coming over. I also pack Advil because you just never know. And this like headache preventative medicine that's like Japanese, it's called like Eve. I also brought that. So those 3 things. And I think the last thing we have to talk about is first year relationships. Okay, so all of my friends say that they do not recommend dating someone in their first year, and I would have to agree just because it might limit you from making friends almost. Does that make sense? Just because if you need someone to talk to, you might just rely on them rather than reaching out to your other friends, or I don't know. I generally would not recommend it, but that just depends on the situation, I guess. And like long distance, okay, actually I can't really say much about this because I've never been in a long distance relationship, but a lot of people do that in their first year where they are still with like their high school boyfriend. And I mean, if that works, I'm gonna quickly move on from that subject just because I can't say much about it. But another question that I get very often, just like unrelated to like first year at university, but it's just like, how do you stay organized and manage all of your different responsibilities? And I actually use Notion a lot for organizing. I use the calendar function in Notion. I know a lot of people use Google Calendar, but for me, I don't know, just Notion Calendar works. It's like cute, so it's kind of motivating in a way. And I also had this thing, it's called like a school scheduler situation where, let me show you. So this was purely for school, where I put in the due dates for all of the exams, assignments, the readings that are due, and then you can change the tabs to like not started, and then you can change it to done once you're done. And just that satisfaction is so nice, and I did that for the rest of the year as well up until like April when I had my last few assignments. So I definitely recommend making this when you get your first syllabus. Just write down all the dates here. It does take a while in the start, but it's so worth having. I used Notion all throughout high school, but I knew of this feature, but I just never thought it was necessary back in high school. But one of my friends in university recommended that I use it, or she just didn't even recommend it. She was using it, and I was like, yo, what is that? And so I literally just copied how she did it, and it was a lifesaver, truly and honestly, because I would switch back from the calendar tab to my schedule tab and see what's due, and so helpful to have. So definitely make that if you have Notion, and even if you don't, like, maybe give it a try. And another underrated tip that I want to talk about actually is kind of related to making friends is talk to different people in your lectures. Like if you're sitting beside someone and you've never seen them before and they seem like a nice person that you might be friends with, just introduce yourself and be like, hi, my name is Irene, like what's yours? And be like, oh, where do you live? Like, do you live on campus? Like, there are so many things that you can bond over, especially if you're taking the same lecture. You're probably in the same program, and if not, it's also nice to make friends outside of your program too. So just take the initiative and definitely be friendly. Even if you're not the most extroverted person in the world, you might be forced to for that first couple of weeks. And another academic tip that I want to give you guys is to join study groups. I know that sounds so nerdy and so boring, but in my first and second semester, I joined an econ studying group just because a lot of people recommended it and the school recommended it too. So I was like, okay, might as well, going in with the lip. And I joined one and it was actually pretty helpful, I would say. I actually joined one with my roommate. One of the study group leaders there, he was just like a student and he was so smart. And so just gaining a bit of his knowledge, I would say, helped me. And every week you're kind of like forced to reflect on the topic and talk about the different practice problems, things like that. So definitely recommend joining one if your school offers that, or just make one with your friends. But sometimes it's not the best to study with like your closest friend, but I guess that's a little bit different when it's like the beginning of the school year and you're not like super close to them. But at this point, if you asked me to study with my friends, we would just be sitting and gossiping. So all right, here is the final look. My hair is not combed through yet, so it's kind of a mess, but I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you guys have any other university questions, let me know. I'd love to answer them, or if you want me to make other videos, like sit down videos. I kind of enjoy this, so let me know if this is something that you'd like to see, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.